Has there ever been a question asked for which you had no good answer? And if so, what is your typical strategy in dealing with those situations? Well, in principle, that number of questions should be going up, because Socrates tells us that the only definition of being educated, let alone learned, is to begin to understand how little you know. And it's only when you have grazed on the lower slopes of your own ignorance and begun to understand the great vistas of non-knowledge that you have, that you can claim to have been educated at all. So it ought to be the case that I'm repeatedly confronted with questions like that. In fact, I suppose the one that is most often asked is, how can I say I know there's no God? And these are from people who don't understand the ABC of the atheist argument, which is that we don't say and can't prove that there's no God, but we will say there's no good evidence, and there's never yet been evolved a good argument for saying that there is. That's why we're more modest than we perhaps look sometimes. Whereas those who say there is don't only say there is because that means they've won an argument, but they say there is in order that they can claim the authority of that God to tell other people what to do. So they make an extraordinary claim with only very ordinary, at best, evidence, sometimes obviously fantastic evidence, fabricated evidence. And they make very, very large claims for themselves. They say, well, now I know what God wants, you have to do what I want. We repudiate that. And we say, no, there are a couple of easier, simpler questions that you haven't answered yet, like the difference between being a deist and a theist, for example. So I like to think that at least while I'm debating with people of that kind, they're not going to come up with a question that I haven't heard before. But on every other subject, whether it was paleontology, biology, political economy, anthropology, I would expect that there would be an infinite number of questions to which I wouldn't even begin to have an answer because I simply wouldn't know. That's really the principal difference. If there's something where there is doubt, don't claim you're certain. It's amazing how relaxing it is not to pretend to know more than you do. I'm surprised that those who claim to speak in the name of God don't take more advantage of this relief.